first video on the War Machines YouTube channel. Today we'll be looking at the Republic P47 Thunderbolt and the M4 Sherman. Today we'll start off by looking at the Republic P47 Thunderbolt, also known as the P47, or nicknamed during World War II as the Jug. It was a World War II era fighter/ground attack aircraft produced by the United States between 1941 and 1945. Its primary armament was 8 50 caliber machine guns, but it could be equipped with 12 5-inch rockets or a bomb load of 2,500 pounds or 1,103 kilograms. When fully loaded, the P47 weighed up to 8 tons, making it one of the heaviest fighters of the war. The P47 was designed around the powerful Pratt & Whitney R2800 double Wasp engine. This engine was very powerful, allowing it to carry the heavy bomb load that it could. The P47 was one of the main United States Army Air Force fighters of World War II and served with Allied air forces including France, Britain and Russia. It also served in the Mexican and Brazilian squadrons fighting alongside the US. The P-47 was a very popular aeroplane as it could do both the air support as a fighter and it could also do the ground support as a ground attacker. As you can see here in the video, the P-47 Thunderbolt is taking some flak fire from anti-aircraft guns. The P-47 was nicknamed a Jug, not just because people thought it looked like a jug, which it did by the US's milk cartons back then, but it could also take a pounding from enemy aircraft and ground emplacements. As you can see here, the P-47 is moving up on some light pillboxes, anti-aircraft emplacements and artillery emplacements. This is to clear the way for a US ground strike, which is currently moving up behind the river. The P-47 is moving through some flak now and is about to go into the vertical, as you can see here, to come back around and dive bomb the enemy position. This is the most accurate bombing format that could be used by aircraft without a bomb sight. The P-47 just dropped 2 1,000-pound bombs and is going back into the vertical. Under the fuselage or body of the aircraft you can see a singular 500-pound bomb, and on the wings you can see 10 5-inch rockets. These rockets could be used to attack more pillboxes or tanks. They probably wouldn't be wasted on artillery pieces or AA. And you can see here going back down to drop the 500-pound bomb. Not as much as a vertical drop on that one, so it's probably going to be a little bit less accurate than the last one, and moving in to take out the 2 AA emplacements, which would be dealt with first before the artillery, as it could shoot down the aircraft. P-47 was introduced to the US in 1941, but by the end of 1942 the P-47C variants, which are the first ones, were sent to England for combat operations. These were the first P-47s to be sent into operation and sent overseas. They were sent overseas and they joined the 56 Fighter Group and joined the 8th Air Force in the British Command. Some base performance of the P-47 was that it could fly at 697 kilometers an hour at 8,839 meters. Its service range, how far it could go, was 1,290 kilometers to 2,900 kilometers, depending on how much fuel it had. Its service ceiling, how far it could fly up in the air, was 13,000 meters, and the rate of climb is 16.15 meters. As you can see here, the P-47 has just been engaged by a Bf-109. The P-47 went into a vertical roll to avoid it, and is still weighed down by those rockets, so I'll let them go. The P-47 is a relatively good fighter, but not when it's jumped on like that. As you can see, this is the M4 Sherman. This is the M4 Sherman 105. This means it has a 105mm cannon instead of the normal 75mm cannon. The 105mm cannon was normally used as a in-place movable artillery piece, which could be used against pillboxes, artillery emplacements, or machine gun emplacements. The M4 was a very good tank at the start of the war, and had quite a few variants open to the Allies to choose from, including the normal M4 with the 75-pound gun, or the 105 with the 105mm gun, as you can see right here. The 105mm gun was rather effective at taking out enemy tanks, and it also had a 50 cal stationed on top and a coaxial 50 cal stationed next to the gun in order to defend itself from infantry attacks. The M4 Sherman was one of the most numerous battle tanks used by the United States and some of the other Western Allies in World War II. The M4 Sherman proved to be reliable, relatively cheap to produce, and available in great numbers. Thousands were distributed through the Lend-Lease program to the British, Commonwealth, and Soviet Union. When the M4 tank went into combat in North Africa with the British Army in late 1942, it increased the advantages of Allied armour over the Axis armour, and was superior to the lighter German and Italian tank designs. For this reason, the US Army believes that the M4 would be adequate to win the war, and no pressure was exerted to further develop the M4 Sherman or any other tank variant. At the start of the war, the M4 Sherman was very good at destroying Axis armor, but towards the end it could get penetrated by almost any gun from the front and the sides. The sides had always been an issue on the M4 Sherman, as they were paper thin and could be penetrated by basically any anti-tank gun that the Germans had, but at the front could still potentially bounce a shot. Another issue with the Sherman 105mm gun was that it lobbed a very big shell at low velocities, which meant that the shell came out and was slow, so that it lost momentum and height very quickly. So the Sherman 105 was not good at long range engagements and had to get up close to be effective. Through the middle of the war, Germany started to develop heavier tanks such as the Tiger, which was a very famous tank, and many tank crews were scared of it, and the Panther. The Sherman could not penetrate the Tiger or the Panther within 100 meters, but the Tiger and the Panther could easily penetrate the Sherman well outside of 1 kilometer. This forced the Americans and the British to rethink of a strategy to be able to make the M4 Sherman penetrate the Tiger while still keeping it cheap and easy to manufacture. The British came up with a simple idea to elongate the barrel of the 75mm and change it to a British-made version. This allowed the shell velocity to be much higher and carry a higher penetrating shells, so it could penetrate the front and sides of German heavy tanks. You can see here the M4 Sherman 105mm is outside of its comfort zone. This is more of a street brawler to be used in a city or urban combat, not out in the fields like this. It can still be effective, but it's just much harder for the tank crew to use it effectively. The real way a M4 Sherman 105mm would be used outside of the city was to take out fortified emplacements such as trenches, pillboxes, and other emplacements like that. To make the M4 Shermans able to get up nice and close to the enemies where they could support their infantry and themselves was to use a combination of artillery and airborne units such as the P47, Corsair, and later in the war, P51. As you can see here, there is a Corsair providing air cover and also ground strike capabilities. It is currently engaged by a Bf-109. As you're about to see a Stug knock out the Sherman in one shot, this was not an issue to the High Command in the US Army, as they had amazing numbers of Shermans.